It is outside of my comfort zone to accept help. So accepting help is part of your recovery. I have to remember to accept help from people because it's in my comfort zone just to do the task all by myself.
Me too.
I can do it the right way and you might screw it up, but it is like your guy said, you could be helping him by allowing him to help you.
Right. No question about it. And me too. Like a lot of guys have said to me, hey, even Frank said to me when he came over last night, you want me to mow your lawn? You want me to roll your lawn? And I'm like, and again, my thing is like, no, I said, you know something, Frank, sometimes me going outside to mow my lawn for 45 minutes is a good thing, right? Like it gives me something to do outside.
Hi there, and welcome to the Sober Friends podcast. I'm Matt J. This is Steve here, and we're going to talk today about the comfort zone. I'm getting outside of my comfort zone, Steve, and family is going on a over-week vacation, and I just said to my wife, I don't even want to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to go because it's not that I don't want to go, but the feeling is I don't want to go. I want to stay home. And I think there are places in recovery that this fits.
Absolutely. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
There is no question about it, especially, and neither one of us are what I would call early sobriety, but we talk about it all the time. It doesn't matter, really. We get into comfort places, especially with our program, right? Mm-hmm. And I just know that I've been doing it long enough, and I have to travel somewhat for business still. So I've been used to doing it, but just like you, I'd rather not do it, right? Like I'd rather not do the conferences, and part of that is like I'm older and I've done it before, and I've done the travel and all the stuff that goes with it, and the conferences, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of alcohol around, and that doesn't bother me because I could avoid that, but I just don't fit there anymore, and I just like to be at a place where I know I'm comfortable, and I know that if I need a meeting or I need somebody to reach out to, or I need to see somebody, that I can. And so anytime going away can be a little stressful. Like it can be a little stressful, especially and then the other thing that happens, right, if you're going away, you end up trapped sometimes, right? I say that to my wife. Like if we go out and we're somewhere and we're in a hotel room, I'm trapped. And I never know what to do. It's like, what do I do? And so anyway, it's something that we got to think about, and it's something that we have to plan for, I think, right? You have to plan for it, and I think that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I think part of my issue is I don't feel like I have planned enough.
Yeah.
Whatever that means to me, I've got to kind of map this one out. I think it'll be fun. Well, I'm not saying I think it'll be fun. We're going to Orlando. We're going to Universal one of the days. It's for a volleyball tournament. We're going to Universal for one of the days, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I have never been to Orlando. My kids have never been on a flight. Oh, so wow. I think there's a lot there, getting to the airport early, of that stuff that I'm just not looking forward to. I don't want to wake up super early. But it's narrow, and I think there are contexts in recovery that come in here. You have routines, safe people, meetings, environment that you get comfortable with, and getting out of that makes you uncomfortable, and you don't want to be around that. In the past, that meant alcohol.
Yeah.
And I think for those in early sobriety, I would love for you to identify here, bumping against that new thing, because it's a growth opportunity.
Especially the travel stuff. If you travel a lot, anybody who's out there who's in sobriety and had a job where they traveled and drank while they did that, right?
I was one of those people.
Right. It's a big trigger, right? Because when you travel, it's acceptable to drink at any time in the day, right? Like you go into an airport that has a bar. At any time that bar is open, somebody is sitting there drinking. And it doesn't matter what time of day it is. So, it's a trigger to not only that, but then I get on the flight and get some drinks, and that whole thing of doing, of drinking while traveling is just such a trigger. And one of the things I've noticed is that in the past more than now, but I would prepare myself for certain trips, even if it was like local or if I was driving somewhere. I would really mentally get prepared for it, and I would go through that trip or that party, whatever I was preparing for that made me uncomfortable. And I'd be like, oh, that was fine. And then 2 days later, I would get hit with this like hangover feeling from it. And man, it took me a while to figure that out too. Like I would get back and like I would be off for like, I'd be a little bit pissed off, irritable. And I was like, what's going on? And then I would realize it would be like a little bit of like I steeled myself for the trip. And then I got back and I relaxed and some of that emotion would hit me. So for me, that was a learning experience, right? Once I learned that was part of it, right? Then I learned, okay, when I could recognize that when I get back and I could be careful and not blow up at my wife or my kids or whatever it might be and not know why, really, like not know why that I'm irritated.
I have learned that the irritation for me is really about anxiety. I'm more irritable. I'm nastier.
Yeah.
I'm not nice because I'm dealing with anxiety for something else. And that's how it comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be honest with myself and others around me when I have that feeling to talk it out.
Yeah. And that's, listen, that's how it all works, right? Is that for you and for me and for many of us is for me to talk it out. 'Cause if I don't talk it out, then I'm always in trouble. I'm always in trouble. And it was nice. I had a guy reach out to me last night, and I'm sort of stuck at home a little bit right now. And he's like, "Hey, are you taking visitors?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Are people coming over?" And I didn't understand what he was asking, but what he was asking me was, "Hey, can I come over for a visit?"
Yes.
And finally, I'm like, "Yeah, come on over." So he came by. Big Frank, sometimes he'll show up on Monday night. He hasn't been there in a while. But anyway, he came by, and it was just nice to sit there and shoot the shit with another alcoholic. And, he tells me his problems that he's got going on with life, and he knows what I have going on. And we just sat there and just enjoyed that moment. And we're able to talk about stuff, right? And I always say it's a little bit of therapy, right? Your 12-step programs. We were able to sit there and talk and just relax a little bit at 7 o'clock to almost 9 o'clock last night. So it was nice to do that.
That's great. That's a great idea. I haven't talked to Frank in forever. I'm so glad that he did that.
Yeah, he hasn't been around much, so I think he's starting to realize that he needs to come around. And that's
Yes.
the other thing, right? He's like, he even said that. I've said to him, because he's worked some weird jobs. He's a security guy, and he's working weird jobs. He's working at the other end of the states, like working different places at different days. So he's traveling a lot. And I said to him, like, you get into meetings? He's like, well, I wasn't, and I'm trying to get back into it. And I was happy that he reached out, right? So it was great that he came over, and we could talk about it. And then this is what we do, right? I don't want to say I pull his chain, but I asked him, I go into meetings, right? And that's how it works. And he could go, no, I'm not really. I'm trying to get back into it. And maybe just him coming to visit will spur him on to get him back to meetings and say, I do need to go to meetings. So
That's excellent.
Right, and that's the way it works. And I just want to tell another little story about that same thing. It's a little bit off topic here, but Friday night, I didn't go to my Friday night men's meeting, and I'm sure it was mentioned. I told the guys, hey, I'm not going. I got to stay home. They know what's going on. I got taking care of my wife right now. And I had this young guy who came to the Monday night meeting, and I invited him to the Friday night meeting. Name is Andrew. Andrew said, hey, Steve, this is Andrew. And I barely know this guy, but I know him. He's a young guy. He's like, if you need any help, I'm available July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And typically, I know what I do, like the typical, no, I'm fine. But I thought, this is a guy who's new in sobriety. I'm going to take him up because I could use some help. And my pool is open and all. I just need to get it organized around the pool. So I told him, like, sure, Andrew, I could use some help. And he said, he finally texted me, he's like, for some reason, he goes, historically, July 1st through 6th are very difficult for me. So you'll be helping me. You'll be helping me out too, right? So this guy's going to come over. He's going to help me around, get my pool set up because we got company coming for the 4th of July. And it's just so nice to be able to do that stuff, right? And here, I guess, here's what we could say is like Andrew's having a problem with his comfort zone on the 1st through the 6th of July,
absolutely.
right? So he's what is he doing? He's reaching out, looking for stuff to do with another alcoholic. And he said, you come over, you could just hang out, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, no, I can put you to work. Like, come on over. We'll put you to work. We'll clean up around the pool. We'll get stuff set up, and it'll be nice. So I'm looking forward to that, actually. And like I said, if it was another guy, I probably would have said, no, don't worry about it. But a new guy who sort of could use some support, I was happy that he reached out to me.
Yep.
So it's really nice.
It is outside of my comfort zone to accept help. So accepting help is part of your recovery.
Yeah.
I have to remember to accept help from people because it's in my comfort zone just to do the task all by myself.
Me too.
I can do it the right way, and you might screw it up. But it is, like your guy said, you could be helping him by allowing him to help you.
Right. No question about it. And me too. Like, a lot of guys have said to me, hey, even Frank said to me when he came over last night, you want me to mow your lawn? You want me to mow your lawn? And I'm like, and again, my thing is like, no, I said, you know something, Frank? Sometimes me going outside to mow my lawn for 45 minutes is a good thing, right? Like, it gives me something to do outside. And I said, I got a rider mower, so mowing my lawn is not a big deal. But I appreciated his offer and the thought, right? And this is the way it works, right? That people will reach out and do that kind of stuff. And again, some of that is because they get in a place that they're not comfortable with, like Andrew. So what are they doing? They're trying to do what we're talking about today. They're trying to do some prep work of how they survive those days.
Absolutely.
In your case, it's a trip. In his case, it's probably that whole 4th of July holiday week, right? That for some reason is a tough time for him. And I don't know him that well, but I'll find out why it's a tough time when he comes over, and we'll get talking, and I'll listen to why this is a tough time for him.
And worse, at the smallest amount, you get them through the holiday.
Right. And then the other thing is, here's the other thing for him is he makes another connection in the program, and I make another connection in the program, right? Is that we make another connection with another alcoholic that all of a sudden we're comfortable talking to each other, we're comfortable calling each other, we're comfortable doing stuff with each other. So it just really is a great way to work. And there's a saying out there, move a muscle, change a thought, right? It's one of the stuff that the sayings that we use in AA, move a muscle, change a thought. And what that is that if your head is messed up or if you're uncomfortable, do something. Physically do something. I remember guys saying, get up and do the damn dishes, do something, and I live by that now, and I like to keep moving anyway. I like to move. So, it's really good. Listen, asking for help and especially I'm uncomfortable asking for help, right? That makes me uncomfortable, right? But I needed to build a ramp. Well, I'll tell you, right? I needed to build a ramp to get my wife in and out of the house for the next probably couple months, and I knew I needed help with that. So I knew who would help me. Our buddy Edson. I'm like, Edson, I need to build a ramp. Can you help me? And it's like, yeah. Next Saturday, let's do it. You get the stuff. And he came over. We looked at it. Like, yeah, let's go. So, when I get uncomfortable, what I need to do is not isolate. Yep. Or if it's a trip like you're doing, talk about it, which is, what we're doing here on today and what you're doing, as you go.
It is really that planning action. That's the thing that is going to help me. It's just sitting down and thinking about what am I going to pack? What suitcases are we going to take? Do we have birth certificates and ID and all that stuff? Right. There's the money aspect too. That is driving me nuts, which is a huge fear.
Of course.
I will tell you something else I did this week that I did not want to do, and I was outside of my comfort zone, but I'm glad I did it. I've talked about having ADHD here. And I wanted to have a much more comprehensive mapping of that and other neurodiversity issues. So I found a place that does this testing. It's in Woodbridge, which is about an hour drive from where I live. And I did not want to go and do this, but I did. And it's during the middle of the day when I'm working, so I'm also feeling like I'm letting my job down. And then there was a half hour worth of traffic. So thank God I left a lot earlier. but I got there just in time. And the testing was very uncomfortable. They asked a lot of very uncomfortable questions. And you're doing things like, all right, repeat back the number I'm giving you. They build up to this. Repeat back the number 1, 3, 7, 8, 3, 2, 4. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
And then they ask you to do it backwards and then forward, like things like that. Read off this sheet, the colors that you see, all this type of 2 hours worth of this testing. I don't get the results back for a couple of weeks. But it was uncomfortable, and there were times I'm being silly, I'm wasting gas, I'm wasting my time doing this. But having this information will be helpful for me.
Right.
Because it doesn't give me a label. What it does, it gives me, you have these things, here are the things that you can mentally work on to make yourself better.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer a lot of these neurodiversity issues are, I don't know if they're triggers, but they predispose you to addiction. There's a lot of research around that people who have neurodiversity issues can end up falling into addiction because it's a way of getting around the pain or the discomfort.
Right. Oh, I don't think there's any question. And here's the other thing, right, is that they've learned so much about all of those conditions in the last 10, 20 years, right? That there's so much more new information out there that, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, maybe you don't want to do it. It's like that whole thing. Like if somebody can tell you if you're going to have Alzheimer's, do you want to know it? Do you want to know that so you can make some planning for it, or do you not want to know it? So it's a little scary like that. Like, how much do you want to know about yourself, right? But like you said, by knowing some of that stuff, you can make changes if you so choose to.
Yes.
Like I said, and we've talked about that before. I know I struggle from that. Just when you did it, I just, just this morning, I found myself in the middle of a project, and then in the middle of that project, starting another project, right? Which is constant for me.
Time.
Yeah, which is constant for me. Like, got this whole thing torn apart. Oh, let me go clean out this cabinet. And I looked at it, I'm like, there I go again. So it's out there. It's something. And again, don't know if that had anything to do with my addiction, but I know it's out there. And at this point in my life, I don't think I'll do much about it. But because it doesn't
Why
really.
Why not?
Because it doesn't interfere with my life enough to me to do it, right? That's what it is. Like, it's not interfering with my wife, not with my life enough for me to really do anything about it. So if it was, then I would make a change on it.
I don't know. There are some things that I think this is interfering in my life, and maybe some stuff that I don't realize is, or it could just make my life better if I know this is an issue. Here's how you address it. So that's why I'm doing it, but the whole time I'm totally out of my comfort zone and I'm screaming, I don't want to do this. Much like the trip. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to leave home. I don't want to spend the money. All of that, and it'll be fine once I get through. But I need to have, and I get paralyzed. I have this task that I need to do to set up a parents' night, and I haven't done it yet. And I get paralysis.
Yeah, of course. I get paralysis too. I get decision paralysis myself at times. But I heard something the other day, which I think you'll like. Maybe you've heard it before. And we both talked about Scott Galloway.
Yes.
And this is not from him, but he also has said that his kids are a little bit older than your kids, and he's got plenty of money. Like, and he talks about he's got plenty of money.
He has plenty of money is an understatement.
Right. And he talks about how what he's doing right now is building memories with his kids. He realizes that when his kids hit 18, they're done. And what I just heard yesterday, the day before, was you're going to spend most of your life knowing your children as adults, not as kids. Mm-hmm. Right? And you think about that. That's a true statement. Most of your kids' life, you will know them as adults if everybody lives, right? So the point was, enjoy them while they're children.
Yep.
And what you're going to do on this trip is you're going to do an experience as a family, and you're going to have a memory. Hopefully it's a good memory, right? Because sometimes these travels, they can be tough. Travel these days sucks, man. Right? I mean,
It sure does.
there's no guarantee you're going to get where you're supposed to go when you're supposed to get there. But Orlando's a fairly straightforward flight. There's a lot of flights coming and going, so it shouldn't be a problem, even if you have some hiccups.
Yep.
But yeah, travel's not fun. Trust me, I've done it. The last couple of years, I've had to travel, like I said, for business, and I've had some problems. Both times, I've had flights canceled. It's not fun. Not fun at all.
I haven't booked a plane ride in a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing the a la carte nature of traveling for the first
nowadays,
time in a while.
Yeah.
Every freaking thing has
very
a charge to it.
Very
it's
different.
Insane.
Yeah.
What an industry waiting to be disrupted.
Yeah, it is. And they've tried, right? People have tried to disrupt it, but it's hard. Yeah, it is crazy how much, everything nowadays. It is a la carte. You said it perfectly. You want a seat, you want this, you want that. And again, that's all the stressful stuff. And like you said, and you're going with the family. You're going, you're going with 3 kids, right?
Who've never been on a plane.
Right, who've never been on a plane, who you're going to have to drag up. They're going to be somewhat excited. They're going to be somewhat cranky, maybe because they're tired. I'm assuming you're taking an early flight out of Bradley, if that's where you're leaving.
Yeah, it's an 8 a.m., so you got a backup of when do you really have to wake up?
Yeah, that's not even that early. That's a pretty good flight. But, yeah, you're talking with 5 of you. You got to be at the airport for 6 probably just to be safe.
Yeah.
Even though it's an easy airport, which you have 5 of you, so there's more chances of things going wrong. So you're talking being up at 4:30, 3:30, 4 o'clock, depending on what time how long it takes you guys to get ready.
Mm-hmm. We have a house full of people with ADHD, and getting them moving.
Right.
This might be a case of me holding them in place. And 2 of the girls have knee injuries,
right,
that are better,
yeah,
but they're going to move at a different pace because of that.
Right. Yeah, planning is what the key is, right? Planning, getting people up, getting them moving. That's what you got to do.
And then there's that fear of we're going to be late, we're going to miss the flight. Those are things that cause me great panic.
Yeah, always. That's where at sometimes you just got to forget about some of the money. I'm assuming you're going to use one of the self parks, and it's just that's where you.
I think we're Ubering up there.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine too. Yeah, whatever you're doing with that, just this is not the time to try to pinch money. Pinch the pockets if you really it's going to make it easier to spend a few extra bucks, to get you where you need to go on time and be more comfortable with it. Because stress, like I said, you're out of your comfort zone. It's stress, and stress always. Stress can lead to bad things for alcoholics, which is not always drinking, just bad things.
Mm-hmm. My friend tells me when I say I can't do something, he constantly tells me, you quit drinking. This is not as hard as that.
Yeah.
And that's a great reminder.
Yeah.
That I quit drinking. Everything else is easier because that was the hardest thing. And that's tough to accept sometimes, but it is the case. So there's practical things that you can do.
Yeah.
Halt check-ins are good. Where am I? What letter am I? Am I all of those letters?
Right.
There's calls back to people in my community. I am sure there are plenty of meetings in Orlando.
Tons.
That are close to the park, close to the hotel. It's got to be.
And the other thing is, when we talk about this, and I know you've said the same thing, and I've said it too, the nice thing is, there's Zoom meetings. Mm-hmm. And here's the things.
I always forget about that.
Right. And here's the thing. You guys might be sitting by the pool, and you may be able to call up a Zoom meeting on your phone and with headphones and not have to participate at all. Just listen in, right? Sit there by the pool for an hour and listen into this meeting that's happening, and maybe participate in somewhat, maybe don't. But that's always the opportunity. And then it's always nice to go. In Orlando, you're going to find plenty of meetings.
Yep.
And it's always fun Oh, I know exactly who it was. Our buddy Rick, who does some hiking, he does some Joe and Charlie. He's going to Italy for like 10 days or 2 weeks, and he was just up in the White Mountains with his wife. And he was texting me, and he said, and this is exactly what he said. He goes, "I'm out of my comfort zone." He goes, "I don't like it." Like, he's going on this beautiful trip with his wife.
Yeah,
maybe his kids too. I don't know if his kids are going, but he's like, "I'm out of my comfort zone," right? Because, and I'm like, I get it. And I told him, I'm like, you know something? You should find a meeting in Italy. Like, well, how cool would it be for you to go to a meeting in Italy? It'll all be in Italian, but I'm going to tell you, everywhere you go over there, they all speak English. Like, the meeting might be in Italian, but you're going to meet some people. Like, what a great thing to do. And it's the same thing. When I travel, if I can, I always like to hit an in-person meeting. I do. I just love doing it. You know, I was down in Miami Beach last year for a conference, and I went to 2 meetings. And I was there for 3 days, went to 2 meetings. And it's just nice. You get to meet a couple people. You get to see how the recovery goes down there. It's just one of the things that I've liked to do, and it's one of the things how I handle being uncomfortable or being away from my typical normal meetings and my normal day-to-day stuff.
I would be out of my comfort zone with that Italy trip because that's always an overnight flight. You leave at like 6 or 7 at night.
Right.
It's overnight. You hit the ground running at maybe 7 a.m. their time, but it's like 1 in the morning your time, and I hate that.
Yeah, it's tough.
I would be so fearful of that and not think of the trip.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough to do that flight. Yeah, it is. You gotta tough it out. I mean, it's just really, it is one of those things. You gotta stay awake, and you gotta try to stay busy until you can get.
Just the first day.
Until you get acclimated to that time. But listen, all these challenges, people out there, if you're not an alcoholic, you probably don't have to deal with a lot of this stuff. I'm sure everybody deals with anxiety and being uncomfortable. But when we deal with it, it's a little bit more dangerous. It's dangerous for me.
Yeah.
It's dangerous for me. It's the whole thing. It's dangerous for my thinking, not so much my drinking. My drinking's always a problem. And I said that to Frank last night. I'm like, I don't think about drinking, which does not mean that I think that I'll never drink again. Mm-hmm. I just think that, it's not something that, that comes into my mind all the time. But man, bad behavior does all the time. Like just not doing the right thing. And that doesn't mean I'm not doing it. The thought comes into my head.
Right.
And it's like, that's the kind of stuff I always have to be on guard for. I always have to work on that. Always looking at it. Always have to work on it. And again, other people don't, but I do. So it's how I do it. I go to meetings. I do 12 steps. I do this podcast, right? It helps put me in a place where I'm more comfortable to be uncomfortable, right? That's the case.
Well, now it's your turn. What's one way you can challenge yourself this week? Because this has to be something that you identify with. I think we're all in that place of nobody wants to change and nobody wants to get out of their comfort zone. And it's a spectrum of how much you are going to get over that. I'd love for you to email in matt@soberfriendspod.com, on social media @soberfriendspod. I'd love to hear from you how you deal with getting out of your comfort zone. What's worked for you in stepping outside of it? What hasn't worked that you had to adjust? The bigger picture here is our comfort zone has kept us safe for a while. You didn't get sober by living small.
No, not at all. Nope, we got sober to live a life that we can enjoy.
Right. That's the case. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And I'll be on this trip. I'll be pretty uncomfortable, but I'm going to be sober, and I'll let you know how it went. We'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
See you, Matt.